Welcome to the P.A.S. Report Weekly Roundup Podcast. The P.A.S. Report provides an honest analysis on the critical issues that matter to you without the biased media filters. Here's your host, Professor Nick Giordano.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the P.A.S. Report Podcast. This is your host, Nick Giordano, and I'm glad you could join me today. If you're not already a subscriber, subscribe and follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Also visit the PAS Report website, pasreport.com. Sign up for the newsletter. And I can't believe it's Christmas week. This year flew by. It went so fast. And we covered a lot here at the PAS Report. Well, I focus on politics, obviously, because it has such a profound effect on our lives. And when we look at our society, our culture, and our country, there is little doubt that a lot has changed. And it happened so quickly. You know, we're debating issues that I could never have imagined we would be debating, things that would have seemed like satire 20, 30, 40 years ago. They've actually become reality. It's insanity. And I do believe that one of the major trends that doesn't get enough attention is how it seems that so many people have lost their sense of purpose, how as a country, America has lost her sense of purpose. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a sad state of affairs right now when you look at everything. And it's the result of destructive policies, failed politicians, toxic messaging, a failed education system, the push for materialism, complacency, so many things. And when I say complacency, I'm talking about the idea that there's too many people that believe we can't lose our liberties, even though they can't even define liberty. They feel that we can't lose it. America can't possibly become an authoritarian country. And all you have to do is look at history to believe that. You got to wake up, because we're rapidly approaching the moment, the point of no return. Our society and culture has become so warped that our priorities are backwards. See, we were constantly told that stuff equals success, and that will bring us happiness. Yet today we have more stuff than every previous generation. I'm not diminishing anyone's personal problems they face, any personal issues you might be struggling through. I'm talking about the stuff that we have. You know, someone on the lower socioeconomic scale today has more stuff than someone from the upper middle class 50 to 60 years ago. But as it turns out, that stuff didn't translate into happiness. Now, did it? Instead, we have too many Americans who don't seem to have any sense of purpose. And so many have given up, surrendered. Many have become devoid and detached from society. Many just don't care anymore. Critical thinking, common sense no longer exists. You have so many people that regurgitate what they hear without ever even thinking about it, without ever even questioning it. And they lack any sense of self-awareness. We are witnessing the results in real time. Merit and hard work have been devalued to such an extent where we now have a whole generation of whiny, spoiled brats that believe they're entitled to everything, and yet they don't want to contribute anything. That's what I want to focus on in this episode. We used to be a strong nation. We used to have grit. We used to believe in rugged individualism, but those traits are like a distant memory. We used to use our brains, and I'm not talking about a formal education. When you look at it today, so many that have these esteemed degrees are the ones that created the problems. They're the ones that created these horrible policies, the toxic policies, destroying our countries. It seems like the more you have a formal education, the dumber you actually get. I know people that dropped out of school in the 6th grade, but they were still smart. They could figure things out. They were curious. They understood basic common sense. It didn't matter what their formal education was. And with the challenges we face, it's important to recognize that moments of introspection and awakening, it paves the way for positive change. We have to admit the defects within our society, what's going on. We have to acknowledge the current state of affairs, and it's essential that we tap into the resilient spirit that once defined America and defined us throughout our history. We faced challenging times before, and we were able to overcome. Well, we could do the same thing now, but it's up to us. We have to rekindle a sense of purpose. We have the power to reshape our society for the better. And in this episode, we'll explore not only the challenges we face, but the opportunities for rediscovery of who we are. It's important that we get back to the principles of self-reliance, something that has always been at the heart of the American experience that defined America. And I'm going to explain it all when we get back from this quick break. So everyone, hang tight. We'll be right back. When things go sideways, you want to be prepared. Protect you and your family. And people are concerned. They might have to go for a long time without food, electricity. That's why I want to introduce you to 4patriots.com. Get preparedness products you could use now, and that could save your life later. My favorite is 4Patriots' new solar generator, the Patriot Power Generator 2000X. It uses the endless free power of the sun to power your lights, your TV, medical equipment, even run your fridge. Plus, it's expandable and comes with a free solar panel. Or you can pick up one of 4Patriots' best-selling survival food kits. Delicious tasting and designed to last for 25 years. They even have kits with real meat. And if the power's out, no worries. Just boil water over fire, simmer, and serve. You're going to enjoy a hot meal and stay safe in a crisis. More smart people than ever are finding 4Patriots. Over 2 million customers trust them, and you might have even seen them on TV. I had the folks at 4Patriots set up a special page for you at 4patriots.com/PAS so that listeners of this podcast can see this week's discounts and deals before they go away. Go to 4patriots.com/PAS, but you gotta hurry because the deals don't last long. So save more money, get peace of mind, and protect you and your family. Go to 4patriots.com/PAS. Welcome back, everyone. So I chose this episode for a number of reasons. First, it's the end of the year. We're about to begin a new year, and with the start of a new year, it's like a rebirth, a time for change. The second reason why I chose to do an episode like this is because I was reading two stories over the last few days that shows exactly how so many no longer have the capacity to think. They can't use their brains anymore. It's all superficial BS that we focus on rather than actually try and understand the issues that face us, the global community, the problems that we face and overcoming those problems. Unfortunately, so many have been trained to view issues from the superficial level, as if everything is black and white and there's no gray area. But on every issue, that's where everything operates, the gray areas that we have to pay attention to. But more importantly, we have people that have been trained to allow their emotions to drive them, rather than use reason and logic. Take the Confederate monument at Arlington National Cemetery. This became a big story. It's now slated to be removed as part of the push to remove any Confederate monuments throughout the country because of the Summer of Love, right? The 2020 Black Lives Matter protests that erupted. And I always found the Confederate statue thing to be interesting because when you look at most people, most of the people that are screaming about these statues, they probably walked by these Confederate monuments like thousands of times. And they had no idea who the statue was of or what the monument was about. Now they care, though. And do people even know what the Confederate monument at Arlington National Cemetery is actually called? It's called the Reconciliation Monument. Arlington National Cemetery was established during the Civil War. And this was America's deadliest war. When the Civil War broke out, there were so many dead soldiers, including in the D.C. area, and you had two cemeteries being used for those dead soldiers, one in D.C., the other one's in Alexandria, Virginia, but they were filled up to capacity. That's how many were dying in the Civil War. So Arlington was selected, and both Union and Confederate soldiers were buried there. During the Reconstruction period, it was a brutal time. There was a lot of tension. The Johnson administration botched Reconstruction. There remained a lot of hostility towards the South. In fact, family members of Confederate soldiers weren't even able to leave flowers on the graves of their loved ones. However, things began to change during the Spanish-American War in 1898. Americans from all states fought side by side against a foreign power. This would be the first time since pre-Civil War that soldiers from the North and the South would stand shoulder to shoulder defending each other. And at the time, you had President McKinley who wanted to reach out to Southerners. He wanted to mark American unity, and he announced that the federal government should and will begin to tend to the Confederate graves in Arlington National Cemetery in order to heal the wounds of the Civil War. In 1906, Taft approved the Confederate Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery, and in 1913, it was formally dedicated in a sign of peace. A more united states going forward. It was a symbol of reconciliation. It was a sign that we moved on from the Civil War where so many American brothers died fighting each other. It was America's bloodiest and deadliest war, and we should always be reminded how quickly a nation can tear itself apart, especially at a time where you hear so much talk about this idea of a second Civil War, which I don't believe is going to happen. I think that's more ginning things up. It's more the media. But instead of growing and learning about the Reconciliation Monument, it must be torn down. Like everything else, it must be torn down in order to erase the past. Because the lemmings within society don't understand that those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Then the second story I was reading was a poll that came out dealing with the Israel-Hamas war. Now, there are several things that jumped out to me, particularly among those aged 18 to 24, and it shows just how far our education system has fallen, that we no longer have an education system based on knowledge and learning, that our education system is now devoid of teaching students how to think critically. Consider this, 51% of those surveyed between the ages of 18 to 24 believe that the long-term solution to the Israeli-Palestinian issue is for, quote, Israel to be ended and given to Hamas and the Palestinians, end quote. Yet at the same time, 69% of the same cohort believes that Israel has a right to exist. So it's clear they don't even know what they're saying, because that's a mutual contradiction for so many of those that were polled. You can't say that Israel should give up its land, that Israel should be eliminated, and at the same time say Israel has a right to exist. Then you dig a little bit deeper into the poll and you see that 73%, same age group, believe that October 7th Hamas attacks was a terrorist attack. 66% of them believe it was genocidal in nature, yet 60% said it was justified due to Palestinian grievances. So if a peoples have grievances against another peoples, what are they saying? That genocide's okay? Is that what they're really saying? So would it be acceptable to have a genocide against Americans because of grievances? Would it be acceptable for any society to commit a genocide against another society because of grievances? Some of these grievances span thousands of years. So they don't even know what they're saying. They don't make any sense. And you can't make sense of the senseless. You could try, but it's like brain dead zombies out there. They don't have any real moral convictions. They operate by emotion. They want to feel important. It's why so many are engaged in the virtue signaling that we witness day in, day out. You see it all the time. These are the same types of people that will block roadways. They're going to glue their hands to historic art. They're going to dump milk in the aisle of the grocery stores. Again, it's about virtue signaling. We just had a poll come out, a scientific study. It wasn't a poll that stated that humans breathing, is causing climate change. Really? So what are you trying to say? Trying to say that we should just stop breathing? Are you talking about depopulation? I mean, it just shows the asinine arguments that they try and make. There's nothing real in their lives. They have no real relationships. Everything's superficial. So they have to attach themselves to something so they can feel good about themselves, so they can pat themselves on the back. And it only lasts a few moments, but these are where they become radicals. It's the same ones that say America is an inherently racist country, that all marginalized people are victims, that they cannot succeed because systemic racism keeps them down. And they say this despite the fact that nearly all West Africans, East Asians, South Asians, Southeast Asians outperform everyone else in the United States, totally obliterating their whole racist argument. But these people are devoid of thought. They can't think. And they have such low opinions of minorities that they believe minorities need saving. If you want to talk about racism, that's where the racism lies. As the late Barbara from Harlem said, it's the racism of low expectations, and she was great. It was so sad to lose her this year because we need more people like her. But we see the ramifications of this poison in real time, and I'm going to talk about that when we get back from this quick break, so hang tight. Welcome back, everyone. So I'm talking about the changing of society and culture, how our culture is on the decline. It's evident to see, and there are now a bunch of TikTok videos going around of soldiers, American soldiers in uniform, explaining why people shouldn't join the military. Now, it's not for the right reasons that they're saying you shouldn't join the military. There's a lot of people that are concerned about what's going on in the military, the diversity, equity, inclusion push, the DEI virus that's sweeping across our entire nation. But some of the videos, people were complaining about the low pay. Now, I do believe that soldiers should be paid more. I mean, it's ridiculous, especially when you see the pay when they're in combat pay. Now, while soldiers may receive low pay, they also do get a number of benefits, housing allowances, the GI Bill, so they do get a lot of benefits. But I want to say, I do believe soldiers should be paid more. However, when you sign up for the military, you're signing up to serve a cause greater than yourself. You sign up because you believe in the United States and what America stands for. You sign up to protect and defend the country. And you sign up knowing that you may have to pay the ultimate price in defense of our nation, that you may come back in the flag-draped coffin. If you're signing up for a reason other than that, well, then you're signing up for all the wrong reasons, and you're going to be very disappointed. But more importantly, it goes deeper than that, because if that's the mindset, how much does that weaken our own military? When war breaks out, how many of you would like to be in a foxhole with someone that doesn't believe in a greater sense in self? Someone who feels, I'm not getting paid enough to sit in this foxhole to protect my fellow brothers and sisters. How many of them are going to go AWOL? How many will endanger the lives of their fellow soldiers because they don't believe in the cause? That is extraordinarily dangerous. And then the second major complaint of these soldiers in uniform that were complaining on TikTok was the food. You know, these poor, self-entitled victims, they don't get to eat what they want when they want. They have to comply with fitness standards. My God, the horrors. The horrors. Another complaint was that you don't have any privacy in the military, especially in basic training. You don't get your alone time. Boo friggin' who? You can't take a mental health day, because that's real life. On the battlefield, you're not going to be able to say to your commanding officer, sorry, I can't fight today. I need a mental health day, so I'm going to take the day off while you're on the battlefield. It just doesn't work that way. That's not reality. Yet, this is what we see. They don't like the fact that they can't sleep in late. They don't like being yelled at by drill sergeants and superior officers. They feel disrespected. So when I say America has grown soft, when I say we have this horrible sense of entitlement, you're witnessing it at every level, but it's particularly more dangerous when it's occurring in the United States military. But it's not just happening in the military, it's happening everywhere. There was a survey where 80% of those in supervisory positions, and I'm talking about employers, private employers, small businesses and corporations, they say they can't find quality workers anymore. That the new employees, they're the hardest generation to work with. Now, I was going to play a sound clip of a Starbucks employee who's having a complete breakdown at work, but I actually feel bad for the kid. He's sobbing that he has to go to school full time. He has to work 25 hours a week. And get this, he was scheduled for an 8.5-hour shift on a weekend. How can we demand a person works 8.5 hours in one day? That's like slave labor, isn't it? He was complaining that there's a never-ending stream of customers coming in. The horror, a place of business actually has customers. Now listen, I know how these corporations work. Most places are short-staffed. I'm not saying they're not. A lot of these companies, they try to do these bare-bones skeletal crews, and it's a disaster. It puts a lot of pressure on the employees, but that's life. Buck up. Then you have customers that are horrible people. You know, I always said this sense of entitlement that we have gotten, it all stems from this idea that the customer is always right attitude. No, the customer isn't always right. Anyone who's ever worked in retail knows that. In fact, there's a lot of customers that could be the biggest a-holes out there. There's a lot of nasty people. See, if I owned a business, it's one of the reasons I don't, I would have the wall of shame. If you berate any of my employees, I take your picture, put you on the wall of shame, ban you from the establishment. You get enough businesses doing that, you will see how quick people learn to show respect to other people. When you're banned from almost every store in your little neighborhood, you're going to change your behavior. We should bring shaming back, but we're not allowed to. I'll get into that in a second. However, getting back to this employee, he's crying in the back room, posting it on social media. What are you posting it on social media? Obviously, you want attention. You got a problem with the establishment, complain to your superiors. If they don't listen, then you quit. You walk out. Or you try and organize the other employees to protest. But you post it on social media because this is the viral generation. They want their viral moments, no matter how pathetic they look. To all you out there, life is rough. Toughen up. Stop whining. So what? You go to school full-time and work part-time. I remember during Superstorm Sandy, I was doing the overnights. I had to commute to Brooklyn every single day. 12-hour shift, and then the commute is 1 hour if there's no traffic each way. It's New York. There's always traffic. So you're talking about 2 hours each way. 16-hour days. You deal with it. You grow a pair. Think about the dangerous moment we're in. We have soldiers that have signed up for all the wrong reasons, and we're going to have to rely on them to fight a war for us. We have police officers that are just going to ignore calls, that are not going to respond in certain areas because they know the blowback is huge. So what's the point of even getting involved when you're going to be targeted, you're going to be criticized, you're going to be sued? Doesn't make any sense. We have teachers that are teaching about America, yet they despise America. You have people in government that believe that America is an evil institution, and therefore it needs to be radically changed. They forget what the idea of public service is about. They believe that they exist to rule over us rather than serve the public. So you have all these people in all these positions that are undermining our culture, our identity here in the United States. And then we're raising an entire generation to be weak mentally, be weak physically. Now, how do you think that's going to play out in the end? What do you think our adversaries are raising their children to be? Here's a clip of President Kennedy. Take a listen to this because it is astounding.
There is nothing, I think, more unfortunate than to have soft, chubby, fat-looking children who go to watch their school play basketball every Saturday and regard that as their week's exercise. I hope that all of you will join, and everybody in the United States, to make sure that our children participate fully in a vigorous and adventurous life which is possible for them in this very rich country of ours.
Could you imagine what would happen if someone said that today? No less a president of the United States. You know, the fake outrage machine would quickly mobilize. That's offensive. You can't fat shame, blah, blah, blah. However, when we look at it, there is a reason we are witnessing a mental health crisis. There's a reason we are witnessing an obesity epidemic. There is a reason we are witnessing a drug epidemic and historic deaths as a result of narcotics. It's because we don't have standards anymore. We're supposed to sit there and say all this is just okay, that we're not supposed to judge, we're not supposed to shame. That's what they tell us. But shaming and judging actually does work. It is important. We need to instill a set of values. But yet it appears that the only ones that you could actually criticize openly and target are conservatives, people that believe in limited government because they're radical right-wing extremists. But when you, again, use your brain and you dig a little deeper, you realize that stuff, it's easy to acquire, especially in this day and age. Everything's mass-produced. The reality is there's no real relationships. We allow ourselves to be distracted with nonsense. But we've forgotten what's important, and we need to re-examine what matters most in our lives. And that's the message this Christmas. We need to reflect on our lives and our relationships. We need to take a moment and reflect on what fulfills us. And I'm not talking about what makes us happy. Happiness is a moment in time. It's an emotion. I'm talking about fulfillment. Fulfillment and happiness are two different things, and fulfillment in life is much more important. We need to find our sense of purpose. We all exist for a reason, and we all have worth. At least most of us do. And we need to tap into that. We need to reprioritize our lives, and we need to truly understand what success actually means. It's not defined by stuff. And if we begin to change the mindset, we'll start to get back to our roots. We'll start to get back to the principles that made us a strong people and a strong country in the first place. So I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I have a couple of special episodes going out next week, so check them out. And I want to thank you for joining me. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and tune in to Gutfeld on December 26th because you may just see a familiar face.
Thank you for listening to the P.A.S. Report Weekly Roundup Podcast.
Have a good one. Bye.
Be sure to rate, share, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Also, visit PASreport.com and follow us on Twitter at PAS Report.